You only need to know me. I will be the one.
Vegapunk's message has been going on for a while now. The central message seems to concern not just the true history of the world, but the will of D. In some ways, it appears Vegapunk is hinting that the lost history of the world and the lost D clan has a will that has been passed down, that these two things are connected. I've made a video discussing everything the will of D could be, and you can search for it on the screen here on YouTube after this. But a quick recap. The will of D is an initial, a name given to those or some people in the One Piece story. We believe it goes back to the ancient times, though the true meaning or purpose of it is unclear. We know that it exists alongside other forbidden knowledge. The vast majority of our knowledge about the will of D comes from Dressrosa, I would argue. Everything Corazon told Trafalgar D. Law about the D being the natural enemies of the gods, or celestial dragons, that these people would always bring another storm, and were destined to destroy this world. The world or era that currently belongs to these celestial dragons and the king of the world, Imu Nerona, I would imagine. This will, the will of D, whatever it is or means, I've said before that it seems to be tied to Joy Boy. Joy Boy's will, an inheritance passed down from him, and so in Vegapunk's words, the will of D carriers today need to answer the cause, answer their calling. This possibly taking us back to Imu's words about the D that are alive today. These D do not understand their purpose, their true purpose. Is that true for all of them? Who knows? Without knowing it, maybe some of these D are fulfilling this calling. We used to think the will of D was restricted to a certain bloodline or a small set of bloodlines. You know the names, so no need for me to repeat them here. That was until Sabo's flashback of the D initial during the reverie reveals the will of D being more expansive than we originally thought. When passing on the will of D to Sabo, Porcus D. Ace once jokingly called Sabo Sa-D-Bo or Sadibo, Sad Bo. Really it should be Sabo D, and so some have pointed out this reminds them of the island Sabaody, where the Straw Hats were defeated. The island where the Straw Hats were separated from each other, which led to the promise of 3D 2Y, a promise to return, to reunite in the future when the time comes. No different than Egghead Island and the ancient giant robot recalling a message from Joy Boy about when the time comes. The ancient giant robot excited to have been reunited with Joy Boy again. There really might be something to this connection after all. The present reflection of the past, lingering embers of history, suddenly burning again with a light that is eerily familiar. A light Imu is trying to erase. And so the D clan can come in many forms. Different people, different races, all sorts of backgrounds can carry this will. It seems the world government is afraid of the D, not just revealing themselves, but also finding one another, or the leader that gave them or their ancestors that will to begin with. Personally, I think the reason the Gorosei did not want the wanted poster of Gear 5 Luffy as Joy Boy getting out there, the reason the Gorosei also did not want the middle initial D of Monkey D. Luffy associated with that poster, is because it is the sign that some of the carriers of the will of D have been waiting for. Joy Boy's return. Doflamingo alluding to the war for the throne. Perhaps not just the throne of the Pirate King, but the empty throne. And so the Pirate King versus the King of the World, Imu Nerona. Doflamingo alluding to the D that have been in hiding. These D revealing themselves soon. Rising up and dragging the celestial dragons down from the Holy Land. Just as Kaido said the world doesn't need 2 dragons. Maybe take that as foreshadowing that the world only needs one king, Joy Boy or Imu. And so the D might be loyal to the original mission of Joy Boy, the true king. Now that Joy Boy has returned via Luffy, Oda will likely have them come out of the shadows, these D. But who could they be? The secret identities of the D. Have we already met some of them? Chapter 1120, Professor Clover of Ohara explains that a man who had a D in his name was killed right before his eyes in the past. That man was Clover's brother. Clover then tells us that his real name is Clyome D. Clover, and that it was his brother that died that day for having the same name of D. Clover reveals that he lied in order to live. I would imagine this is true of other Ds. They are hiding who they are, where they are, their names, because they too fear being killed for having that D initial. Some people in this world are killed simply for being born or stating their name. Clover is from a new D family, it would appear. A D family that has been hiding until now, until Vegapunk exposing them. What if the other hidden Will of D characters were right in front of us all this time? We possibly met some of them before, but they have hidden themselves away for the very same reason. Afraid they might be killed for sharing that secret identity. We know this because of what Corazon told Trafalgar D. Law, to never reveal his middle initial D, that the celestial dragons, the gods of this world, would hunt him down and eliminate him, specifically Doflamingo. We most recently saw Imu Nerona's reaction to hearing that both Queen Lily and King Cobra, the Nefertari family, belonged to the same clan, or carriers of that same Will of D. And yet despite lashing out, appearing to have an antagonistic relationship with the D, some wonder if Imu Nerona himself has the Will of D too. After all, Imu was pictured in that panel alongside others that have a relationship to the Will of D. Blackbeard, Dragon, Sabo, and so on, in one way or another. Maybe wills are subjective like art, the eye of the beholder. Art is interpretive, and so is the Will of D, passed down to each of them individually. Maybe the Will of D is carried out differently by those that have inherited it. Again, going back to Imu's words about whether the meaning of D is fully understood. It might be that each D is carrying out that will in their own way, but only one person might firmly understand what the D stands for. Anyways, the hidden Ds that are out there like Clover. In this same flashback from chapter 1120, Clover told Vegapunk that he can hear a voice coming from the past. Is Oda teasing that Clover possibly had the voice of all things? Just like Goldie Roger and maybe Kozuki Oden, if Oden was a member of the D clan, given that Kozuki Oden died with the same iconic smile as Roger, unafraid of death. Both Roger and Oden, like Luffy and Momonosuke later on, they also heard an ancient voice, Zunisha, yes, but also the Sea Kings. The Sea Kings and Zunisha representing voices from the distant past, perhaps. In Clover's case, he could likely hear the voice of the poneglyphs, the voice of history crying out to him and them. You have to wonder if they ever heard Joy Boy's voice. Do you think that could happen in the future? Do you think that every D can hear the voice of all things? The voice of all things might be closely tied to the Will of D. A will or voice from someone from the past. Again, maybe Joy Boy, reminding them of that cause which they have inherited, to continue the fight for him in his absence. And so, to quickly repeat, those that carry the Will of D are said to be the enemies of the gods, enemies of the celestial dragons, enemies of the Gorosei and the king of the world Imu, the D who will always bring another storm. Great change to the world in opposition to the world Imu Nerona has created. And given Vegapunk's speech about the other Will of D carriers that are out there that might answer the cause of that thing which might be called a will, inherited will, adding to Doflamingo's teasing of the existence of lurking legends, lurking Ds. Hidden D clan members that are out there. Are there any other characters in One Piece that we know of that might potentially be members of this D family? Someone that comes to mind immediately is Shanks. Yes, he was found on God Valley, and many believe him to be a celestial dragon given his resemblance to a younger Fiegel Garling. But there have also been theories that Shanks is half celestial dragon and also half Will of D. So, biracial in a way. Or maybe a celestial dragon that has the Will of D, whether by bloodline or similar to Ace giving the D name to Sabo. Ace's father, Roger, might have made Shanks a D, too. In One Piece Volume 4 Billion that released with Film Red, we see God Valley and Shanks wearing a shirt that has the sun and moon on it. For whatever reason, One Piece fans have long believed that the sun or the moon or both might be connected to the D initial in some way. Shanks is said to be the sun, and his right hand, Ben Beckman, the moon, similar to Luffy and Zoro in SBS. Could the sun be for the D clan and the moon for celestial dragons, or, again, who knows exactly? Obviously Ben Beckman and Zoro are not celestial dragons, but just an overlapping connection potentially. Shanks being both maybe sun and moon, at least by bloodline, if not character. Saint Fiegel and Garling having the hairstyle of the moon. Some have suggested the D looks like a half moon, and so half light, half darkness, and we'll get to that more in a minute. The straw hat is also believed to represent the dawn or rising sun, worn by two Will of D carriers, Goldie Roger and Monkey D Luffy, maybe even Joy Boy. So if Shanks also wore the straw hat, could it be because he is also a secret D? I mentioned the D clan members revealing themselves when the time was right, when the time is right, which might be coming soon, making their move when the time was right again, when the true king Joy Boy returned. What did Shanks do recently? Shanks announced after seeing the new bounty poster of Joy Boy Luffy that it was time to go after the One Piece. Again, the time has come. The time is right. Another potential hidden D is related to Shanks, not by blood, but by rivalry. Dracul Mihawk. Mihawk is considered to be Shanks' greatest rival in terms of swordsmanship. Mihawk being the world's greatest swordsman, the world's strongest swordsman. Rivals and so somewhat adversarial. And so the D are said to be the enemies or adversaries of the gods, and given Shanks was found on God Valley and resembles Saint Fiegel and Garling, many believe Shanks is a secret celestial dragon. Dracul Mihawk secretly having the Will of D would only solidify him as a rival to Shanks. The D also appear to be a fallen people. Mihawk's favorite place of residence is a fallen kingdom on the island of Kuragaina Island, where an ancient battle appears to have taken place. We also see the moon associated with this island and Dracul Mihawk, a crescent moon. Mihawk also has a move called Kokotu Kogetsu, which translates to Black Blade Arc Moon. In mythology, it is said the full moon is associated with supernatural creatures like vampires, which Mihawk, or Dracul Mihawk, is in part based on in terms of Dracula. Shanks as the sun, and Dracul Mihawk as the moon. Again, who knows whether the moon should represent the D clan or celestial dragons. Like Mihawk, Blackbeard is another rival or arch-enemy of Shanks, and we see Blackbeard crying as a child under a moon. And then another moon is shown as Blackbeard says during Jaya that he was aiming for the very top. Saying that he was going for the top was likely a foreshadowing to the Blackbeard pirates, cryptically revealing that he was after the world to Saturn, maybe even the king of the world. We also see the moon again when Luffy becomes Joy Boy in Gear 5. Oda seems to have put the moon in Luffy's background for a reason. The sun god and the moon. Again, we can only guess the true purpose of the sun and moon symbolism. But going back to Mihawk, vampires, the undead, the many Will of D carriers like Luffy that live their lives like they are not afraid to die, and others like Roger and Ace who similarly did, but also who died with a smile as if death was nothing. Maybe a reach, but the themes of vampirism might underlie being a D. Death is nothing. I cannot die, or in Roger's words, I'm not going to die. One way or another, I will live forever. I will live on. My will be inherited. Others will surpass me. A different sort of immortality compared to the immortal Imu. Could Mihawk also have a checkered fate? Now, the counter theory against Mihawk being a D is how some wonder if he was a former holy knight. Some point out the same eyes that Mihawk has resemble those of Imu Nerona, and the holy cross-shaped sword with markings similar to those seen on the empty throne. Mihawk takes us to Zoro, and the possibility that another Straw Hat also has the Will of D. Roronoa Zoro. Is that really his full name? Could Zoro have a middle initial that we don't know about? With a family from Wano, and when we went over with the Kozuki clan and Odin dying with a smile, is it likely Wano has a D clan? Maybe more than one. Kozuki, Odin, and Roger both sailed with Odin, and Whitebeard told Roger that he had another crewmate with the D initial like him, Blackbeard or Marshall D. Teach. Maybe not just Odin, but someone else on Roger's crew also had the Will of D to parallel Whitebeard. We mentioned Shanks, but what about Buggy, who is another rival to Shanks alongside Blackbeard and Mihawk? Shanks, Buggy, and Blackbeard have been debated, as I'm sure you all know, as to who might be related to Rox D. Zebek, even if Blackbeard is the man who inherited Zebek's will. But could Buggy be a D and so Rox's son? Buggy D. Clown. Clowns are known for their smiles, just like the D, by the way. Could just be a coincidence. But if the Pirate King Roger had another Will of D member on his crew, maybe Luffy does too. Out of all the Straw Hats, who do you think is the most likely to be a secret D? I would say Zoro, given that he has also shown he is unafraid of death. And Zoro was compared to Kozuki Odin during Wano, and Zoro has inherited Odin's sword, Enma. Maybe they are each secret Ds. There is also Nico Robin. Nico Robin's father remains a big mystery and was teased to have some importance to Ohara, and so the scholars and Professor Clover, who has personally been outed as a D by Vegapunk. When it comes to the sun and moon again, each is associated with light, the light of the sun, and the light of the moon. Nico Robin is said to be the light of the revolution, and Clover, Professor Clover's full name, has just been revealed to be Clyome D. Clover. The name Clyome might be inspired by Clyome Solae, or the Sword of Light, that appears in various Irish and Scottish folk tales. Again, the D having some connection to the light, to the sun or moon. The only other Straw Hat that I think might be from the D clan is Nami, given her biological parents also remain a mystery. Although Nami is definitely scared of dying, so maybe not worthy of the D in hindsight. Now, Jaguar D. Saul has always stood out as a D to me because he's the only non-human I can recall that belongs to the D clan. Being a D as a giant might suggest that there are other giants out there that have the D title, the D middle initial. Maybe on Elbaf, where the Straw Hats are headed next after Egghead Island. So what other races or ancient races might have people that carry the Will of D? Any fishmen? Any minks? Maybe Lunarians like King the Wildfire. But let's go back to the humans. Koby seems special given he is one of the first major characters introduced alongside Luffy in Chapter 2. Koby's future is intricately tied to Luffy's then. The D brings storms, change, They are the enemies of the gods, and during the Marineford War, Kobe stood up against Akainu, the red dog of the gods, and the world government. Shanks saving Kobe only makes Kobe even more special. Kobe also being the protege, the student, the one to inherit the will of Monkey D. Garp. Besides Luffy, who he saved from that Sea King for showing a similar display of courage, earning Shanks' respect. Could Kobe also have the will of D? What storm might Kobe be about to bring to the world? Especially in light of Vegapunk's message. Given Kobe is a member of SWORD and operates somewhat independently from the Marines and world government, you could argue that the storm has already begun, and SWORD might soon challenge not just pirates, but celestial dragons, the Gorosei and Imu. SWORD might eventually include Smoker, and so could Smoker be a D, too. Smoker is another that seems willing to go against the world government and celestial dragon gods. Smoker's rebellion seems to have started at the end of Alabasta by letting the Straw Hats and Luffy escape. Then there is Smoker's relationship and conversations with Fujitora. Both are angry, even opposed to the world government, for being complicit in what some pirate warlords have done. What is Smoker doing now? Maybe Smoker has the will of D, making his relationship with Monkey D. Luffy even more special. Especially that moment in Logue Town where Luffy's execution and smile resemble that of the Pirate King Goldie Roger. There could be a deeper reason Oda situated Smoker here, had him make such a connection between these two Ds, Luffy and Roger. Something else to think about is maybe some of the faces of old characters were included alongside Vegapunk's speech because the message was directed at them. And they might be secret Ds as well. For example, the return of Don Krieg and Jin. The return of Katakuri in the actual storyline and not a cover page. Big Mom did have children with all sorts of men, so why not someone from the D clan? And if Katakuri is supposed to be a mirror, given the mirror world, and so a mirror of Luffy, then why shouldn't Katakuri also have a mirror of Luffy's will of D? Finally, there is Boa Hancock, who is her father, Amazon Lily, an island of women. But where are the men? How are the women, the girls born? Orphans or women and girls seeking refuge akin to a woman's shelter, maybe? And so any woman that stumbles upon the island is accepted, but the men are discarded, but the men are shunned away. Maybe for some of them, maybe a man, a father, was actually involved. Maybe a man from the D clan is Boa Hancock's father. We recently got Oda's SBS face reveal of the former empress of Amazon Lily and the Kuja tribe who ruled Amazon Lily before Boa Hancock, and after Shaki. This woman's name is Tritoma, or Tritroma, or Toritoma, whatever the correct translation is. She died years ago as a victim of love sickness, and some wonder if this was a love of Whitebeard or Luffy's father, Monkey D. Dragon. And so as a parallel, Boa Hancock having a love of Monkey D. Dragon's son, Monkey D. Luffy, following in the footsteps, unintentionally, of Toritoma. Also following the flower-themed names of the Kuja tribe. Toritoma, the former empress, is named after the Tritoma genius of flowering plants, also known as Red Hot Poker or Torch Lily. So, red hot, torch like a flaming torch, and so fire, maybe. Luffy's Red Hawk comes to mind, as well as the sun god, the fire of the sun. Who knows? Either way, whoever Luffy's mother turns out to be, was she like Ace's mother, Porcus D. Rouge? Was Luffy's mother also a D? If she was, then Luffy's mother might have other D family members out there that have yet to reveal themselves. Given these potential D members, which other One Piece characters do you think share the same will? Let me know in the comment section below. But as usual, We will have to wait and see. Don't forget to like the video, comment with your thoughts below, and subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter at the following address, @VinlandRagnar. My Twitter page is on the screen. Also check out my other One Piece channel called Vinland Leaks, where I'll be making shorter One Piece videos and responding to your comments. And I'm trying out something entirely different with a channel called Vinland Dark, for those of you that like my darker One Piece videos. I know I keep saying this, but for real this time, starting in July into August, I'll be dropping a lot more videos here and there on the other channels. Again, links will be in the description box and pinned in the comment section below. As always, there's more to come. Until next time.